guys, this week I read a book called The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. And I initially picked up this book because I read some reviews that said if you really loved Where the Crawdads Sing, as I did, that you would really enjoy this book, and it certainly did not disappoint. So let's just dive right in. This is a coming of age story that follows our protagonist, Lenny Albright. Lenny lives with her parents, Ernst Albright and Cora Albright. The story takes place in the 1970s, and when it starts off, we're in Seattle, Washington, where the family has decided to live for a bit, but we learn that they've just been constantly moving around and they really never make a home for themselves. Ernst has just come back from the Vietnam War, where he was a prisoner of war for 6 years and already presumed dead when he came home. And when he did return, he was just a complete changed man. Back then, what we now call PTSD was not very widely known, and people just didn't treat it very differently. It was called many different things before it actually got its clinical diagnosis, and some of those things were actually pretty demeaning. Like, they just saw these people that came back from war as being cowards or ill-equipped to do that. And so this was a time that we didn't know a lot about that back then, but we see now, reading this in the present, that this is what Ernst Albright came back with. So he is very volatile, he's quick to anger, he shows signs of aggression and abuse, and all of this is building. Well, one day he gets a letter that one of his war buddies has left him the house and some property in Alaska, so he wants to make a fresh start. He wants to take his family to Alaska, live off the land and off the grid, and hopefully find somewhere where they can really belong. So off they go. When they get there, they meet some wonderful people and characters that you will grow to love, and they teach them all about homesteading. They learn how ill-equipped they are to actually live off the land and kill their food and grow their food and stockpile everything for winter. So that is an adventure in and of itself. But as you know, that the patterns in the way the sun rises and falls in Alaska are very different from what we're used to, and they have extended periods of time where it is very dark and they never see the sun. And with the changing of the setting and the changing of the weather also comes a very decline in Ernst's mental state. So we get to a point where the dangers on the outside of the home are far less than what is actually happening inside of the home. And I will leave you there because that's where the story really starts to build and things get really exciting. A couple of things I really enjoyed about this book. I loved the characters. This was another slow build for me where you are really learning about the characters and what they do in every situation and the complicated relationships they have with themselves, with each other, with the environment, until we get to some actual plot events that start happening that push the story along. But by the time we get there, we're so engrossed in the characters and who they are that we have become invested in them. There were many times throughout the novel where I would find myself crying real tears for these people because I was really concerned about what they were going to do and if they were going to come out of everything okay. Something else that I really did enjoy about this was the way that the coming of age story is set in this very natural setting. That, I think, is why people say that if you love Where the Crawdads Sing, you will love this novel, because the setting is such a huge force and often reflective of what's going on inside the house. The outside turmoil mirrors what's happening on the inside of the house in terms of weather. So I loved that. I loved the language that Hannah used to describe the setting, just really being immersed in the setting and the characters. I think it made this novel so enjoyable for me. I do feel like I have to address some of the criticism. I went back and read some reviews after, and she got criticized for two main things. One was that Ernst's PTSD character was stereotyped, and the second one was people felt like she romanticized Alaska and its setting. So when I did some research on Hannah, I found out that in the 70s, as a 13-year-old, just like Lenny, her family actually picked up and moved to Alaska as well in search of adventure. And when they were there, they met some homesteading families who helped them along the way. And ultimately, her parents started up a lodging business in Alaska. And she has made trips back and forth, loves Alaska, and she, she really enjoys the state. So to say that she romanticized Alaska and she really didn't know a lot about it, I thought was unfair, because she actually lived it, and she lived there during this time where our country was very divided after the Vietnam War. So she did meet some of these families that were like some of the characters that she described in the novel. To that end, addressing the PTSD part, this was not autobiographical for her, but she did have friends whose fathers went to the war and came back and exhibited some of the personality traits and changes that Ernst Albright did have and show in the novel. So again, it might seem like a stereotype, like this is what we view all PTSD war vets to act like. This was her experience, through her friends that she had as a 13-year-old. So I did want to throw that out there and just address some of that criticism, because I couldn't really find any critiques about this novel. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Another thing that I will, say that I saw some critique for is that a lot of bad things happen. Some people said, oh, it's kind of like a soap opera, or it's so melodramatic. Yes, a lot of bad things happen. That's what moves the plot forward. But I also think that it's fair to say that sometimes there are some people that they're down on their luck for a really long time, and a lot of bad things happen to them. So I don't necessarily think that it is unrealistic to say that that could happen to a family or to a person, a lot of bad things. But just as anything, from those bad things, a lot of good things also come out, and you'll see that as an underlying theme in this novel. Along with that, it also talks about, love and relationships and complicated relationships and communicating and community, the spirit of patriotism. So just there's a lot of ideas, a lot of themes, a lot of great things. So again, I hope that you choose to pick this one up. It's not for everyone, but my jam is not necessarily your jam, but I do think if you liked Where the Crawdads Sing, I know I'm getting repetitive, but you will enjoy this novel. It's just got a lot of cool things to offer. But if not, then I hope you pick something else up to read and that you are enjoying it. And you're reading something. So until next time, guys, I will come back to you with my next read, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching.